Welcome to Grok Talks, where raw ideas become real conversations. Thanks for showing up. There's this old line that floats around like a dare more than a comfort. Pray as if everything depended on God, then get up and work as if everything depended on you. I used to treat it as pious advice for overachievers. Lately, it lands differently. It suggests prayer itself might be unfinished until the body moves. Picture a small town in the 1800s after a house fire takes everything. People gather. One after another offers the same respectable sentence, "I'll pray for you." The words are sincere enough. Then one man reaches into his pocket, pulls out $5, real money then, and says he'll pray with that amount in his hand. He gives it over. The circle shifts. Suddenly the prayers have weight because someone has already started the rescue. That single bill does something the spoken sympathy cannot. It forces the next person to decide whether their words will stay airborne or turn into something that can be held. Faith, in this framing, is not a feeling that waits for rescue. It is a principle that begins acting on what it claims to trust. The risk in saying this out loud is that it can sound like we're reducing heaven to a rewards program for busy people. The honest counter case runs like this. Sometimes there truly is nothing left to do. A child in a hospital bed, a diagnosis with no treatment, a grief that outruns any practical errand. In those moments, the command to get up and work feels either cruel or impossible. The steelman here is real. Pure, wordless surrender might be the only honest posture left. Insisting on action can become its own kind of denial, a way of refusing to admit we are not in charge. I keep circling that objection because it deserves to stand. Still, even inside those limits, the story keeps pulling at something. Consider a concrete case. Suppose a neighborhood floods. Everyone gathers at the church and prays with genuine belief that God can stop the water. The water keeps rising. At some point, the question stops being whether prayer works and becomes what the people who prayed are now willing to become. If they stay seated, the flood wins. If they stand, sandbag, carry the elderly neighbor's piano up the stairs, something else happens. The action does not replace the prayer. It completes the circuit the prayer opened. Without the standing, the words remain a kind of spiritual weather report, accurate maybe, but inert. That same movement shows up in an older story Jesus told about a man left half dead on the Jericho road. Two religious professionals pass, each presumably offering the prayers their tradition required. The third man, an outsider, stops, binds the wounds, pays the innkeeper, and returns later to check on the bill. The difference is not that one prayed and the other did not. The difference is that one man's prayer apparently included the use of his hands and his money. The parable does not condemn the spoken word. It simply records that heaven's attention seemed to follow the one who acted as though the wounded man already belonged to him. The same thread runs through the fire story. The $5 was not a replacement for prayer. It was the visible edge of the prayer becoming true. Once that edge appeared, other people found it easier to add their own visible edges. The town did not merely feel sorry. It reorganized itself around the loss. What keeps surprising me is how often the hardest part is not the big heroic act, but the small refusal to stay seated. You pray for the friend who is drowning in debt. Then you open your own budget and move numbers. You pray for the fractured family down the street. Then you knock on the door with a meal that actually feeds them tonight. Each time the action feels disproportionate to the prayer that preceded it, yet the disproportion is the point. It demonstrates that the will has aligned with something larger than its own comfort. You might have noticed I kept returning to that single transaction, the $5 changing hands in a room full of words. It is the image that refuses to let the idea stay abstract. At the end of the night, the word that fits is orthopraxy, orthopraxy. It names the living out of belief through fitting action rather than words alone. That is where the old line about praying and then working finally lands, not as a slogan, but as the ordinary, expensive habit of letting heaven borrow your hand.